One of the questions leading up to the conference today is what tools are there for online and offline integration? And this is a tool that I used about 6 months ago and I think is a really great tool. And this really truly does integrate offline and online activities. It's called a USB insert and it's a web key integrated into print media. It looks a bit like a USB stick. You pop it out when it arrives in the post or in a magazine, as an insert, and you put it in your computer. It then directs your customer to your online resource. But first of all, it offers a personal greeting to them. What it also does is measures their interaction and provides you with a very detailed report. So you can take something that's printed that you send to a customer in the post or you put into a magazine, and then out of the other end, you can get interaction with your online resources. And they are very, very effective and still quite new in the UK. So when you're measuring the success of your integrated campaigns, how do you do it? I found this online, which is a fantastic piece of advertising. But then I actually started to think about it and think, well, how is this zoo going to measure the success of this advertising? It'd be interesting to see what their original objectives are, but I think it would be quite difficult to measure. When looking at online and offline integration and whether it's successful, I always revert back to a very simple process, which is going back to your original objectives, and you need to have original objectives. Because if you don't have them, you can't measure the success of the campaign afterwards. And I find that sometimes a slide like this is really, really useful. I've gone into presentations where people have really complex calculations about cost of acquiring attendees and cost of acquiring people to download meeting reports and then using some sort of really strange formulas. But really what people want to know is, did you hit your original objectives? And if you hit your original objectives for the offline part of your campaign, so in this case your meeting, if you also hit the objectives for your online part, then I think you can clearly say that the integration was successful. It really is that simple. And if you haven't hit the metrics for your offline part of your campaign, then you could probably say the integration wasn't successful and you either need to look at your online campaign again, or alternatively, maybe you need to be brave and realise that it was a mistake and you don't need an online campaign. The other thing to do is to compare what you were getting before you started your new campaign. So look at what you're getting with the integrated campaign, so with your online registration, your online booking, and see what your attendance rate is and your feedback score in this example. And then look at what you were getting on average for meetings prior to using the integrated campaign. And if you can show there's an upturn, if you can show that actually using an online resource to register delegates and share information with them actually gives you a better attendance rate and a better meeting feedback score, then again, you can show there's been success in integrating those activities. Tracking multi-channel activity. This is one that I think is really easy to do. The great thing about online activities is there's an awful lot of metrics you can measure. When you have an online campaign and you've got offline and other online elements, it's good not to launch them all at the same time, but stagger them over a period of time. And it's really easy to, whether you're using Omniture or Google Analytics, actually look at a graph of traffic to your site over time and then just simply plot your other activities against that. It's very, very easy then to see which of those activities are working and which of those activities aren't working. So to summarise, your customers are online, whether you like it or not, and they are looking for information about your products. They're starting to call the shots now, and you need to provide them not only what it is you want to share with them, but what it is they want and need as well. Because if you don't provide them with that, then they're going to choose not to interact with you, and that's ultimately what your goal is. An integrated campaign will improve the effectiveness of your marketing messages. And finally, measure ROI across your campaign. Think about what the objectives are and then look at measuring the success of those at the end for both the offline and the online elements to see whether the integration really has worked. So that's the end of my presentation, I'm pleased to say. If you want my presentation, it's not in your packs. You can find me, just in case you can't find me, there's a little wee me up there, and you can also find that on our website as well. I'm happy to send it to you, but I also understand it's going to be uploaded onto the DigiPharm site after today.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Mark. Thank you. Just before we go to questions, I wonder if I can ask the guys there, could you put up again the screen that shows the wireless network and the code, please, for those people who didn't see it earlier, who have come in a little bit later. I think particularly for the presentation that's due to follow, people would need to be able to access the wireless connection. Okay, if you can just put it up on the screen for a couple of seconds, great. Thanks very much. Right, anybody have any questions for Mark? Question at the back there.
My name is Stefan Mungatz from Reprints Desk. We are one of the exhibitioners at the top level. We are working in the offline and online world as well. We are offering SCM literature in print and online. And you said that pharmaceutical companies should try to get the material hosted themselves. And from our experience, most of the STM, of the main STM publishers, will not allow that. So they want to do that themselves. But you could use as well a third party who offer an easy system to use. And we are one of the suppliers. So I just want to comment on that.
Excellent. So I didn't, that was a pitch as opposed to a question, was it?
No, it was more on a comment of the difficulties to host STM published materials. That's almost impossible from our experience.
Okay. I mean, I think the thing is, you know, integration doesn't have to be you doing it. And yes, you can use third parties. I mean, previously on a website that I managed as a product manager, I did very successfully manage to host a lot of publications on our website by paying the publishers for a license to do so for a period of time. But actually, if there's a third party and it works better for you, I think the key is you spend lots of money on paper reprints. You don't ever know whether they're being read, and you're getting through thousands of them a month. If you put them online, you're creating value for your customers, and generally, if they go online to download them, you've got a much better idea that they're probably actually then going to be read. So you can actually measure the effectiveness of that channel much more.
Okay, another question, Carwyn?
Hello, Carwyn Jones from doctors.net.uk. It's a question about you, Mark, really. I just thought it was interesting having moved from industry out into the, well, I wouldn't say the big bad world, but outside the pharmaceutical industry. I just wanted to ask you personally, what are your biggest learnings? What have been your surprises? What are the things that you've discovered in the last, or during this year?
I should have stayed in pharma. It's probably the first one, actually. Suddenly you go from everybody wanting to speak to you to nobody wanting to speak to you. So I feel quite unloved. I think I haven't really found anything that has surprised me, because I knew from the companies that I work within that actually people don't know an awful lot about digital, or they don't know where to go to find that information. And so actually, you know, it sort of, you know, becomes self-replicating really, that they just build this fear of digital, and, you know, sometimes I'm surprised at how little people know and how, you know, back to basics you have to go with some people, and that has been one of the things I think that has surprised me. But, you know, I think, you know, as Kai said, and as I'm sure other people are going to say today, we do have an awful long way to go, and I think we have to be patient with people, even sometimes when that, you know, seems quite difficult.
Okay. One more question then, and we'll go to the next speaker. Sorry, can you just wait for the microphone, please?
Sorry. David Holyoke from diabetes.co.uk. During your talk, you were talking about content management systems.
Yes.
And publishing clinical papers via companies' websites.
Yep.
You actually mentioned having them available to download as a PDF. Could you explain why you might recommend PDF rather than publishing actually as a web page?
I think if you make them available to download as a PDF, it's much easier to host them within your site. It also means that users can download them They can read them on their computer at their leisure. They can email it to their home computer if they'd rather email it home. They can download it to their iPad or their iPhone, or if they're going on a journey, they can print it off and take it with them. It gives them complete flexibility on how they interact with that medium.